Good morning, friends, wherever you are currently watching on YouTube or LinkedIn. I think the first big thing for us to have a little bit of a chat about is this letter that was launched this week and signed by a whole bunch of folks from the AI communities, which is pausing giant experiments, an open letter. This has now been signed as of today only by 1,700 people. And I say only because when this first launch hit the news earlier in the week, had around about 1,100, 1,200 signatures. So it hasn't grown exponentially, but continues to grow in terms of people adding their signatures to it. You might have seen this news earlier in the week that there has been a lot of worry around the AI systems that are being trained right now, particularly GPT-4, that they may be nearing some kind of intelligence, some kind of more general intelligence than just being large language models. And if that's the case, then they have real opportunity to jump the air gap, shall we say, of the internet and start doing things of their own, which could ultimately cause the downfall of civilization. Now, I know that for many of us might seem a little bit sci-fi or a little bit over the top, and there's reasons to believe that still is the case and that these systems aren't going to do that. There's a high probability probably that they are going to. But it's certainly close enough that we should be scared. And certainly when you begin to look at the types of people that have signed this, you'll see why. The one that's obviously, or the couple of people in this list, which has really shot this up the news agenda this week, is obviously signatures from people like Elon Musk, Steve Wozniak, mostly known to most people as Woz, one of the co-founders of Apple, and Yuval Noah Harari, the author, very well known for his work in this kind of space, and many others, including some very leading and philosophers in the AI space, as well as lots of people in the startup field. And what they're essentially calling for is a 6-month moratorium pause on the training of any new large language models and more general AGI systems that could be developed, which have a confidence that the effects will be positive and the risk will be manageable. This is what they're calling for here. Powerful AI systems should be developed only once we're confident that their effects will be positive and the risk will be managed. And we basically are running with this problem right now, which is that whilst the large computation that's going on in things like GPT-4 are very well developed and by over a long period of time, there is still a lot of unknown knowledge about what's going on inside of these systems, and their ability to potentially be deceiving us or not be able to tell us when they are going off stream, or even the ability to conceal that, is something that is concerning to many people, and the potential that that may have in the long term on causing some really negative outcomes. So as you can see, many big names in the space kind of calling on this, and as a result, what they're asking for is all AI labs to immediately pause for at least 6 months on training the AI systems that are more powerful than GPT-4 so that they can be verified. And basically they call for us to enjoy what they're saying is, I like this phrase, the long AI summer, and not rush unprepared into a fall. And this idea of the AI summer is that essentially we have already trained in the form of GPT-4, but also things like Lambda and Llama and the other systems that are coming out of Meta, Google and others. We've already done enough potentially to have created systems that are enough that they're going to give us fantastic outcomes. They're going to give us fantastic opportunities. And there's not a reason necessarily right now to train anything more powerful than that. We can do some amazing things already with systems like GPT-4, and we're already seeing that happening out in the world. So why go further right now and put potentially dangerous systems out into the wild? So that's what they're calling for, and it's exciting to see where this might go. That's the kind of letter. Now, in terms of how do we feel about this letter, there are many reasons why I think there's a lot of kind of caution in this space, and I think at a base level, this isn't necessarily a bad idea, but many in the innovation community have been calling for this to be thrown out, A, as potentially politically motivated, B, commercially motivated, certainly by those that are trying to start their own AI laboratories. We know that Elon, amongst other people, have been trying to start their own new AI groups separate to the work of OpenAI. And because of OpenAI's current structure and one of the missions that's in the OpenAI charter, which I'll try and pull up now as we discuss it, they have not ever since their inception, but part of their overall mission is that they are, as they say here, committed to providing public good to help society navigate the path to AGI. And one of the things that they've had as part of this kind of charter and mission is that they agreed that if they were to come across another system, I think it's here, that is a late stage artificial general intelligence being developed, but by someone who is a competitor to them, that if they were aligned with its values and it was a safety conscious project coming, they commit to stopping competing with and start assisting that project, even if it's competitive to the work of OpenAI. Now, of course, the real question that comes up is if they get, as they say here, for example, a triggering condition for this might be a better than even chance of success in the next 2 years, they'll go and help that company out and do what they want to do. The real question is, what happens if OpenAI is the company that gets there first? And will they just start piling all of their resources back into themselves rather than taking this slightly more altruistic look? And so you could imagine that there is imperative from companies outside of OpenAI to encourage them to pause, given that this is something that, would ultimately slow down innovation within OpenAI and potentially mean that they are less commercially viable, or less commercially likely, at least, to become the predominant player in the OpenAI field. Because there is essentially a kind of generalized theory here that as soon as you actually hit artificial general intelligence, as soon as one company comes up with it, there's almost no reason why you should ever have other AGIs, because that AGI would become intelligent enough to essentially accomplish all tasks of an AI that is required, because it could constantly be learning off of its own training data. Now, that's not necessarily technically true. There are reasons to believe that there might be different flavors and types of AGIs that are specifically fine-tuned to doing certain types of tasks. But if we think in the broadest kind of sci-fi sense that there will be one super intelligence that can do it all, then you would probably imagine that you don't really need. One of the things that we've been really excited to be supporting over the past couple of years at Vixen Labs is the Open Voice Network. And the Open Voice Network, for those of you who may not yet be familiar, is a organization that is a entity of the Linux Foundation, weeks to become a advisory board member to the Trustmark initiative of the Open Voice Network. This is something that, working with colleagues such as John Stein and Oyita Coleman at OVON, as well as also a number of the others in the advisory board, we're seeking to bring about essentially something akin to the B Corp accreditation, or you could think of something along the lines of a fair trade mark for companies and organizations to state that they will pursue the ethical and moral uses of conversational AI and voice technology. And we're proud to launch this week the Trustmark initiative, which is a program more than just the mark itself, which will allow companies to begin to embed these guiding principles into your organization. So if you're an owner of a business or an organization, you can begin to go and actually start taking on some of these qualities yourself. And to do that, you need to get yourself familiar with these guiding principles. And they are, I think, really strong pillars of what it means to deploy conversational AI in an ethical way. Transparency, as in we need to be clear about the way in which we're using these systems. Inclusivity, that we don't choose to use them in a way that is going to bring any kind of bias, but also brings in aspects of society into the use of them and respects all populations. Accountability, making sure that we hold ourselves accountable to the way in which we use these systems. And then sustainability, privacy, and compliance. These are the big areas that we need people to be digging into. The program itself allows you to go and not only take course materials, so you can educate yourself and the teams that you manage on ethical principles for the use of conversational AI. You can check out the course outline here on the website, but then you can also go and take the maturity model test, which will give you a very simple Q&A to get an understanding of where your organization currently sits in terms of its ability to deploy ethical AI, in particular conversational AI. And by doing so, you are then able to align your current team's setup against these 6 principles. So I really commend this to you. It's something that we will have up and running in the next couple of weeks. I'm really excited, oh look, there's Muggins, to work along such a esteemed panel of board members and friends such as Hans van Dam from the Conversational Design Institute, Bradley Metrock, from which many of you in the community will know from Project Voice, and many other colleagues from the academic world who are also supporting our development of these. So I commend it to you if it's something that you are responsible for in your organization and deploying ethical AI or AI in any format. And let's be honest, that could be nearly all of us very soon. Then this is something that you might be wanting to get involved with more. So if you are, you can go and find out more about that at the openvoicenetwork.org. Go to the website and check out the Trustmark initiative button in the top navigation. And I really look forward to getting your feedback on that. Okay, this is the Friday episode of Chat to JP, the live stream show that I'm going to start doing every week on a Friday to try and bring some content, interesting perspectives on what's happening in the world of conversational AI and large language models, streamed every week for 15 minutes here on LinkedIn and YouTube. I hope you found it useful. If you've got any questions or comments or things you want us to cover in future weeks, drop it in the chat below. But otherwise, we'll leave it there. And thanks so much for tuning in whenever you do. Take care.